for joining. Let me just share my screen. All right, so thanks everyone. So we are having another session by Adobe User Groups India chapter. This is our second event that we are hosting virtually. So for today's event, myself and Pranay are speakers. Just to introduce myself, I am Divanshu Goyal. I am a consultant at TechX, and I am a AEM User Group leader for the India chapter. Over to you, Pranay.
Thank you, Divanshu. I'm Pranay Rajput, an advisory software engineer at Pitney Bowes, and I am an Adobe champion for 2025 as well. I work across different AEM solution and love turning complex AEM challenges into practical solutions. That's it from my side, Divanshu. I think you can take over.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining. I'm Marco. I'm lead developer at OneTrust. I'm also uh, the co-leader of AEM User Group India chapter. Also, I'm also the AEM champion this year. It has been like 2 years, and yeah, I will be the moderator today for the session. Thank you. Over to you, Devanshu.
All right, so before we get started, because it's not just one user group chapter that we are running in India, we have multiple across the globe. So we are having some exciting events that are going to happen very soon. So starting with, we have on November 17, 10 a.m. Eastern, Experience Hub and AI Assistant Overview, which is hosted by AEM Global Dem User Group chapter. We have one on 19th of November in the European time, which is going to hold various insights which are there during that up to 2025 session. If you know what up to, this is being hosted by Dash Region User Group chapter. We have, again, this is one of the event which is related to post-adaptive meetup on 19th of November, 10 a.m. Eastern, and at the same time, 4 p.m. European. And this is being hosted by AEM Midwest User Group chapter. And we have multiple of them. So just to highlight one last, which is run by Australian New Zealand User Group chapter. But this is an in-person event in Sydney, and this is around AEM strategies for multi-brand digital platforms. So in order to register any of these events, you have the scanner in front of your screens. Either you can scan it, go over there, or AEM UGS website, and you can find different chapters and the upcoming events available over there. All right, so Adobe Summit is at the corner. If you guys know, Adobe Summit is the biggest event for the whole year, being hosted by Adobe. We have a lot of marketing teams coming as new launches, which we used to have in the summit, and even it is going to have a lot of AI related things which is getting launched this year. So if you want to sign up, go for it. It's on April 19 to 21, 2026 on in Vegas in person, or you can also attend it online. And in order to buy the tickets, you can go to summit.adobe.com. And in case you do it by 10/31, you will get $600 off. And we also have one of the Gartner peer review running. So if you know about the Gartner reviews or you have done it in the past, so you as a customer can fill the review around the different platforms that you work on. So if you are Experience Manager Asset user or Experience Manager Sites user, or you are part of another Adobe Gen Studio or something, so you can go over there. It won't take more than 10 minutes to fill it because I did it last time. And the deadline is December 1st, 2024. 2025 actually, and as a token of thanks they are giving $25 gift cards, and you can only use your business email or LinkedIn, but not any of the personal emails. And don't worry about it, all the reviews stays anonymous. So lot of housekeeping. Let's now come directly to the user group house rules before we get started, and then we can directly jump onto the session. So yeah, just to keep the user group session fair for everyone, and because we all know this is being voluntarily done by user group leaders, which is being managed by Adobe. So no self promotion or pitching of any kind is permitted during the user group event, and you should not contact any person outside the user group without their consent. And user group members who share their use cases during the user group, because we have some of the question answer sessions, so please don't share it outside without their consent. And yeah, just a note that this meeting is currently recorded. So we understand that there could be people who don't want to get themselves recorded during the session. So please feel free to watch the recording in later time, and which will be available on the same page once the meeting concludes. And if you have any questions, you can send it on advocacy@adobe.com. And yeah, just to stay connected on our newly launched AEM user group India chapter, because we always see that there are a lot of opportunities in India. So why don't we have an AEM user group over here? We have a lot of experts. So just to keep yourself updated with latest information around the user groups, all the latest events, you can navigate to our chapter on AEM user group, create your account, and join the chapter if you have not done so far. We even have a QR on the right hand side of the screen that you can see. Go ahead, scan it, and sign up. And yeah, this came as an opportunity because myself and Arco has been talking about it, and we came up with an idea that why this user groups needs to be something where events are going to be organized by us only. So if you are someone who is willing to be a speaker for, and you have some topic that you see that, okay, let's just go ahead and explore it and talk about it in one of the user group session, feel free to do this. On the right hand side of your screen, you can see a scanner. You can sign up over there, and also a doc link is down there, which will be available to you once the PPTs are out. And yeah, let's grow and build together. So finally, coming to our agenda. So today's Cloud Manager Unlocked, it is packed with a lot of new game changer features, all the learnings that we guys had using the Cloud Manager. And we all understand that when it comes to AEM as a cloud service, Cloud Manager has its own important aspect of it to understand how to set up our pipelines, get us built, deployed on all the environments, or even setting up all the networking rules. So today, I'm going to pick up a few of the topics, but I think most of it are being driven by my co-champion, Pranay. So let's get started. So before we dive in, let's talk about the agenda for the day. Number one is, of course, why Cloud Manager matters more than ever, because it's like since the time we have AIM as a cloud service released, we started talking about Cloud Manager a lot, and yeah, that just sets up the stage for us to explore it more. Then we are going to go through end-to-end CI/CD workflows, how we can set up the pipelines, and what kind of pipelines are available to us, how to set up the rules over there. And then we will move towards SSL, domains, and environment management. Although I understand that many people are not much aware of it, and that's a reason of having it in our agenda today. And multi-repo and organizational repo management, because it's not just one repo that we manages, because different teams works in a different pace and different projects have their own requirement. So we are going to go over there, and then we will talk about some advanced networking concepts. One thing even I'm very excited about is what are the new cool features that has been launched in Cloud Manager. So let's go through them, because maybe you want to talk to your team and gonna get them enabled, and maybe those can be lifesaver for sure. So yeah, just to set up the stage correctly, let's just talk about the Cloud Manager a bit. So why Cloud Manager started mattering more than ever? So the question Just a second. I'm just checking. So if you guys are not on mute, this will be really helpful. So why Cloud Manager matters more than ever? So Cloud Manager actually changed how, so AEM actually changed how cloud services deploy and scale, because we have always been in, we always wanted to scale our products with multiple different brands, projects, deployments, and we have multiple teams working on our projects, right? And that's a main purpose of having a CMS, like a content management system. So Cloud Manager works as a DevOps backbone for the modern AEM. So from automatic quality gates to performance governance, it provides secure continuous delivery. So you can set up all your infrastructure rules over there. You can set up your pipelines. You can set up all the rules, how the code will be deployed into the Cloud Manager. So that makes it very essential part of the whole AEM as a cloud service architecture. Now let's get started with understanding the end-to-end CI/CD workflows. So when we talk about the CI/CD workflows, we always have two things that comes in our mind. Number one is Git, number two is pipelines, number three is environment, actually three, right? So using the Cloud Manager, we can create reusable and customizable pipeline steps. We can have multi-module builds, because many of the projects may end up having multiple brands, which has shared libraries in it. And even we can secure how the code goes onto the server, because we definitely need some quality gates in order to secure it and make sure that only the right quality code goes to the environment. So we have security scans, performance, and code coverages. And even it supports the full stack and even the targeting deployments. So just to go over it, like how can you build a reliable pipeline? So if you have not done so far, let's just talk about the simple steps that it has. At a conceptual level, we have two kinds of pipeline setups that are available. Number one is code quality and the deployment pipeline. As the name suggests, for the code quality, if you are trying to deploy something and you want to create a separate pipeline that so that you are not finding surprises when it is actually going at the last step of our deployment, the code quality gates are failed. So you can also have a separate code quality pipeline, because you can just use them to give it a run before you do the actual deployment. Or you can go ahead for the deployment pipeline. Again, as the name suggests, this pipeline will be used for deploying the code to the actual environments. So generally, we have three kinds of environment in AEM as a cloud service, which are dev, stage, and prod. So while setting up the deployment pipeline, you need to give it a name. You can see it in the screenshots. Those are very basic steps. You can set up how you want to trigger this pipeline. Either you want to do it manually or whenever some Git changes happen. And at the same time, you can specify the metrics failures. Like, do you want the pipeline should ask you whether it should fail when the matrices actually fail, or it should continue immediately, even if those fails. The metric could be less code coverages. It could be having some kind of not minor, major criticalities in your code. So accordingly, you can set it up. The next step is, once you select that it's a deployment pipeline, let's just say, then you end up having two other options available to you. Number one is full stack code pipeline deployment. Number two is targeted deployment. Full stack code deployment, as the name suggests, it's the regular deployment where we deploy all the modules which are present in our, the Maven archetype project, and you want all of them to get deployed in one single go to the environment. So in that case, you will say full stack code pipeline. And whenever the pipeline comes in our minds, there are two things comes alongside, which is on which environment it needs to be deployed and which repository it's going to use. So yeah, as the name suggests, you can go ahead and select the environment where you want to map this pipeline to, the repository you want to get it mapped, and the Git branch for sure. And then you can select the steps after that, like functional testing or whatever you want. And similarly, you can also have a targeted deployment, because generally we don't want to go for a full stack code deployment just for changing a simple cache rule in the dispatcher. So in that case, targeted deployment comes into the picture, and those are very helpful because now you can create separate pipeline just for the dispatcher only, or maybe your configs only, which will deploy only UI.config, because maybe you end up changing a simple config. So you don't want to deploy everything by full stack code. So you can select the targeted deployment and select which one you want. Either you want config, front-end code, or web tier configuration. Config directly translates to your OSGI configurations, which resides in UI.config folder or the module. And then you have front-end code, which is UI.frontend module, and web tier config directly translates to all the dispatcher configurations. So based on that, you can create different pipelines and it's a very helpful interface altogether to do that. You don't need to be a DevOps expert or something to create it. And then whenever the pipeline execution happens, this is how all the steps looks like. So it starts with the validation, then it goes to build and unit testing, then it scans your code, the image is built. After that, the code is deployed to the environment. In this case, it's deployed to dev. And then your product testing, product functional testing or custom functional testing gets triggered if you have some, integrated test or whatever goes over there. So now I pass it over to Pranay to explain more about SSL domains and environment management.
Thanks, Devanshu. That's great. Honestly, pipelines have come a long way. I still remember the old days of manual builds. Cloud Manager has made all that effortless now. But once your code is ready and the pipeline's running smoothly, there are next challenges like SSL domains and environment management, right? And then we have advanced networking concepts. So we'll start with SSL domains and environment first. So a few years back, this part was very painful, uploading the certificates, verifying the DNS records, and then hoping nothing expires on the weekend. Now, Cloud Manager actually simplifies it, where it provides you an end-to-end SSL certificate management feature, and then you can also map domains per environment like dev stage and production. And even you can map multiple domains per environment too. And I feel it's the UI to do everything is pretty much straightforward, very clean, and very reliable. Devanshu, can you jump on to the next slide? Yeah. So as you can see here, the SSL certificate management is pretty much easy, where you can upload a Adobe managed certificate or custom certificate. Even if you're choosing Adobe managed certificate, then auto renewal is available at the Adobe side. Adobe takes care of renewing the SSL certificate. And then you can choose for which basically domain you're going to do it, like for what origin it is, you can choose that. Then there is a automated validation and propagation across environments. Devanshu, can you next slide? Yeah. Now, once your SSL has been successfully uploaded in the Cloud Manager, you can see you can add new domains, right? You can create a new domain for your brand. For example, there is a brand A. You can start creating a domain for that. Separate domains can be there, like some domains can be there for the lower environments, dev-brand A and stage-brand A. And similarly, branda.com can be there for the production one, right? And these domains are generally mapped to the CDN. So again, here we have multiple options. Whether you want to go with the Adobe managed CDN or you have your own other CDN provider, here Adobe makes it very much easy to choose from, and your domain can be mapped. These are just a series of steps that you need to follow if you have a Adobe managed CDN or you have a custom CDN of your own. And once you have added the domain, the validation occurs after the activation, basically before the activation. Now, next, let's go to the environment. When you have added the domains into your Cloud Manager and you have also uploaded the SSL certificates, you will see an option of domain mappings here. So what feature I usually like the most here is that it's pretty much straightforward to add a new domain in your environment. You just need to click on add and you can add your domain here. You can even add multiple domains, like I gave an example of brand A. You can even add brand B, brand C, and for a specific program you can add multiple domains and you can run multiple websites. This uh, this small things like these that makes your life easier during go lives, right? It simplifies multi-brand and multi-region setups, which is there in the cloud manager. Devanshu, let's move to the next concept. This is how it looks. One environment, multiple domains, each with its own SSL. Now, once SSLs and domains are done, the next question is, how do we connect AEM Cloud to other systems? Earlier, this used to take forever, like raising tickets, waiting for approvals, whitelisting IPs. Sometimes it took weeks just for to make one API to work. Now, Cloud Manager gives us these simple ways to do this securely. Cloud Manager extends its AIM connectivity securely to external system via these three ways. One is the flexible port egress, then we have a dedicated egress IP, then we have a virtual private network. Now let's jump on to the flexible ports egress. I'll take an example here. Imagine your AEM site calls a payment gateway API that runs on a port 8443 instead of a standard port that is 443. So we usually have a standard port that is 80/443. That is a standard port used by APIs. Earlier, that was a huge issue. Now you can just allow that port in Cloud Manager and it works. You just need to enable the networking infrastructure, and then once you enable it, you can configure your ports here. As you can see in the screenshot, for mysql.example.com, I have added a port that is 30,000, and then for smtp.example.com, I have added 30,001. It's perfect for connecting to API or services that run on custom ports. Now let's jump on to the second. This is the favorite feature I liked. So basically, I had a very challenging time, and even I found it very challenging. I even wrote a blog about it earlier. So this one is usually about security and consistency. So I faced a bottleneck, like everything was easy through Cloud Manager. I deployed all my code to the dev and everything was working fine. And all of a sudden, the client says the client has their own APIs that needs to be integrated within our system. But all of a sudden, client says that on production, we need the APIs to be having a static IP. We need a whitelisting. Now, this was a blocker for us. I would say a very big roadblock where we knew that in the Adobe Cloud Service, in the AEM as a cloud service setup, we don't have a fixed static IP because we have a cloud environment. Every time there can be a different publisher. Every time you're making a deployment, you are not sure like which IP it is associated to it. So there is no dedicated IP. But we needed a solution here. So Adobe made it very simpler. It's a few clicks away, where you can enable dedicated egress IP addresses. Just choosing some of the options, like here you can see that you select a region, and once it is enabled, all your outbound calls are going through a static IP, and it made it easier for our client. And we provided a static IP to the client, and they whitelisted on their end. So it's like giving AEM Cloud its own identity on the internet. Only trusted traffic goes through. So all the AEM requests that has been made from AEM was going to using the outbounds were all with a static IP. Devanshu, let's move to the next part. Now, talking about virtual private network. So let me give you an example. If you need to pull data from an internal database or authenticated users via Active Directory in Azure, so VPN makes that connection seamless and safe. Now, It lets AEM Cloud connect directly to your internal network securely without exposing anything publicly. It can create a secure tunnel traffic between AEM and private infrastructure. Whatever private resources you might have in your current organization, it makes it pretty much easier. It creates a secure tunnel between that internal infrastructure and your AEM. And the best thing is that it is managed and monitored by Adobe Secure Network. So to sum it up, I would say flexible for APIs are for custom ports, dedicated IPs if you need systems that need whitelisting, and VPNs for secure access to private data. Now let's jump on to the next topic, that is multi-repo and organization level repo management. Now we have usually in some setups we have large AEM programs. You never just have one repository, right? There's usually a core repo. Maybe you have multiple brands. Sometimes some customers have multiple brands underneath, like brand A, brand B, brand C, brand D, and usually these brands should have their own set of codes. Like we can call them as a tenant. Like brand A can be a tenant, and tenant one, tenant two, tenant three, and then you might know that AEM should have its own configurations. Like there are some common configuration through, so then there can be a core repo. AEM makes it very simple to handle multiple AEM projects. You can use separate repos for each brand or module, and then you can have a shared repo as well, right? I'll explain you in the next slide how this thing works. Now if you see the recommended structure, you should have a root repository. Root repository doesn't hold real code, just references and a POM example for the Maven project. Then we have a commons repo. And in the commons repo, the repository contains just the common configurations. It can also even have the whole dispatcher, and it can have all the OSG configurations. If I take an example like link checker and all the common configurations that are there in the AEM. Then we can have a different repos for brand. Let's say for brand site A, brand site B, brand site C, and every brand has its own specific code. How this works? Let me show you in the next slide. Yeah. So the root repo is built in the Cloud Manager. It pulls all reference modules, commons, splash, brand sites, and this is everything defined inside the pom.xml. We can have multiple repos that is lying outside the Adobe ecosystem. Like customer gits can be there. Like for brand A, there can be separate git repo. For brand B, there can be separate git repo. And altogether, all these can be pulled inside AEM under one root repo. And this is how the magic happens here is, what AEM will do is it produce one deployable package for all projects. And the security gates and the common quality and the pipeline remain same. And it's helpful to just plug new brand repos in the same structure, and the pipeline and everything that is already there in Cloud Manager, we can leverage it. Now, let's come on to the next topic. This is the last topic for today. And before we wrap up, let's take a quick look what's new in Cloud Manager. Features that genuinely make day-to-day work easier over the past 2 to 3 months. What Adobe has recently released in their latest, I would say, releases, the maintenance releases or the Cloud Manager releases. Next slide, Divanshu, please. Now, this is the MVP feature that I have been waiting from a long time, and I would say a lot of you folks, whoever are in the Adobe ecosystem, must be waiting for this. And this was a very big overhead for you, that for stage there is no separate pipeline, there is no non-production pipeline. You will always have to trigger the production pipeline, and then you have to just reject the changes at the production approval level. Now you can split them. You can run a staging only or production only pipeline. It's faster, cleaner, and fits better into real world release cycle. Right? It improves control speed and obviously reduces reruns. As you can see in the screenshot, you can add a non-production pipeline and you can select a stage environment where you can directly deploy to stage. So deployments to stage becomes very easier. All the UATs, all the bug fixes, it actually this feature has its own charm, I would say. And if you have a lot of a lot of teams that are working in the same AEM environment, then going to release it's also becoming easier because you have a dedicated production pipeline only, which directly deploys to production. There is no staging, I would say, step required. Let's come on to the next slide, Devanshu. Yes, this is a very small tweak, I would say, and this is, I would say, very helpful. You can now mark your favorite pipelines. For example, if I talk about myself, I usually use the dev pipeline a lot of times and the dispatcher pipeline a lot of times. And when you are managing, when you are like working with a lot of teams and you have different pipelines, like a lot of pipelines are there, more than 10 plus pipelines, then it's difficult to locate those pipelines. So I can just mark it as favorite. Like if I want to rerun my dev pipeline again and again, I can just pick it from there. So it's like a favorite is option. It makes repeated runs and validation pretty much easy. Now, the third feature that Adobe recently released is you can now even connect your private Azure DevOps repositories. You can add your own Azure DevOps repositories instead of using the Adobe repo. This concept is called bring your own Git, which directly links with Cloud Manager. Even you can install a Cloud Manager plugin inside your repository for pull request validation. What it will does is it will run some checks that are being run in the code quality pipeline in your Cloud Manager. The same checks would run, and you can solve those issues beforehand, even pushing it to the Adobe before Adobe. And I think, yes, this is for enterprise team already working in Azure, this makes the workflow completely seamless. So to wrap up, I have personally seen Cloud Manager grow from being just a development deployment tool to becoming the backbone of AEM Cloud. From pipelines to SSLs, from domains to networking, it quietly takes care of so much for us. And that's what I love most. It lets us spend less time fixing and more time building. And thank you so much for listening. And now we'd love to take your questions. If you have any questions, you can just drop your questions in the chat. Let's make this an open and helpful conversation.
Yeah, Pranay, we have a lot of questions for you.
Yeah, let's start. Yes, Rakesh. So I think it would be better to introduce an option to deploy the core bundle in the targeted deployment section. Yes, definitely, Rakesh. I feel earlier when we used to work on AEM on-prem, no, I won't say that it's the people are not working. It's a lot of brands are still working, and there is an option to deploy the bundle. But again, Adobe has thought of like implementing this uh, check where you cannot install the bundle directly on the production or at least on the staging environment. But yeah, I would definitely vouch for this if they allow deploying bundles on the RD and the dev environment, at least.
So I think I have a little bit different thought on this one, because I feel that code should go together than the configurations, and then your dispatcher configurations or maybe the front end code, because at times we see people getting confused otherwise, that okay, hey, I deployed something, it's not working, and they later find out, okay, there's one of the model that I have used in my UI apps, one of the components, but that doesn't got deployed because I just deployed the core bundle, and so forth and so on. So I think if it's just another perspective to give it, like, because when we talk about the AEM, it's code, which is application, then configurations, and content. So I think when we split it in those parts, so it's okay to go in this way. But yeah, I understand that For deploying the whole code, you need to wait for the long running pipelines. But RD solves it a lot. Means going with the RD, you can anytime do it any which ways, and then you can go to the developers console. To the deployment pipelines.
Yeah, that's great, Devanshu. Okay, let's hop on to the next question from Bugar. Is it possible to configure both dedicated egress IP address and flexible port egress? So currently in Cloud Manager, I don't see any option. Once you configure the flexible port egress, you don't have option to enable the dedicated egress IP. Although I have not tried vice versa, like enabling the dedicated egress IP first and flexible ports egress, you usually don't get that option when you are enabling the flexible ports egress. Now, next question from Rakesh. In prod only pipeline, which build artifact is being used for deployment? So usually for prod only pipeline, you have a branch config. You have a branch configuration there. Personally, this feature has been recently released by the AEM team, Adobe team, but I haven't used the prod only pipeline yet. I have just explored that you can create a production only pipeline. You can see it in the Cloud Manager option. You can change there's a branch option. You can select a branch there, and whatever code scanning and metrics it goes through, it just deploys it.
So I think which means correspondingly that we can have different branch for each instance. For example, for stage, if I think about deploying something to stage, we
Right.
can have stage as a branch name, which is gonna deploy to stage, and prod as a branch name for that one. So it's not like how we do it for the full stack pipelines. Means it's again very assumptuous. Understanding the fact that it allows you to select the branching option, that the code is not like artifact is built on the staging only pipeline and that then passing over to production. So I think we are gonna lose the charm if we break it down for
Yeah.
sure. Then we need to maintain it differently and internally move our code from stage branch to prod branch. I think so.
Very rightly said, Devanshu. And the second question is again from Sarvana. It's related to the same question. Even after splitting stage pipeline, does production pipeline first deploys to stage first? So basically, if you see, we have a non-production pipeline, that is the stage pipeline. We have a production pipeline, which is already there, which I would recommend everyone should follow for deploying to production. Like, because it's a series of steps where scanning, validation, right, building images, everything is done. Then it gets deployed to the staging environment. And after that, there are some checks like performance testing, UI testing, experience auditing is there. And then there is a production approval. And then this should be the process I should be taking if you're doing releases on AEM. There is again a separate just production pipeline where I think which can be used personally. I feel is if there is a like a fix that needs to go or something like that. But yeah, after splitting the stage pipeline, yes, we have dedicated staging only and production only pipeline, but we also have the production pipeline. So we have three categories of pipeline now. I think this should answer the question. Um, I think I don't see any further questions.
I think there is one by Brijesh, and I would like to answer that,
Yeah, sure.
which is regarding the JavaScript and CSS specific changes, which can be deployed out of the front end module. So I think I was having this question even when I was exploring the front end pipeline for the first time. So generally, what happens behind the scene is that when you set up the front end pipeline, you give the instructions to your library altogether. There are a series of steps that you can find over there, but in gist of it, um, what it does is it stops creating your URLs and your HTML saying slash is etc.clientlibs. Rather than that, it started picking up those URLs from one of the CDN. So whenever you are deploying a front-end only pipeline, what it is eventually doing is it is creating all the code, basically compiling all the code and just creating single site.css or theme.css or theme.js, those files as a singular files. and deploying them directly to the CDN. And then because your AEM or your HTML parser knows what to put over there, and it started getting pulled up from there. That's how it is eventually splitting. But one side note is that you can only use front-end only pipelines in the lower environments. On productions and everywhere, stage and production, it's gonna go as a part of the full stack pipeline. But it really helps because we see that in AEM there are a lot of styling changes, a lot of JavaScript changes that happens as part of, in one of the sprint, you will see 5 of the UI changes and 3 of the backend changes hardly, right? So at that time, it becomes easier for UI developers to just go over there and run only the front end only pipeline and deploy it. But yes, it's not that straightforward. You can't just go over there and create the front end pipeline and you're done. No, you need to follow series of steps to create some of the configurations, which gives the information to your AEM that start picking up from here. And also, other side note is, if you run full stack pipeline, doesn't mean it's gonna also deploy the full front end pipeline. Then you first need to run full stack pipeline and front end pipeline at the same time. For example, on dev instance, right? You want to deploy whole code. So first of all, you will run front end. First of all, you will run maybe full stack pipeline, and then you will run front end pipeline separately. It won't take care of it. Does that answer your question, British? There are more questions coming on the way, Pranay.
Yeah, I can start answering them. So the next question is from Rahul. So with BYOG option, can we just integrate a private GitHub repo directly with pipelines? Yes. So basically, what happens is initially when Adobe launched the private GitHub repositories option, there you can integrate a private GitHub repo, but not an organizational repo that is being used by an organization. Like you can create your own private GitHub repo and you can directly add it there. And yes, then you can use it to use into pipelines. But as a new beta program, uh, they are working on it and they have just released that Azure and other pipelines like GitLab, majorly Azure DevOps, Git is also available in that. I can't comment on it that we can completely remove the dependency on the Adobe Git or not. Uh, this is what we can get back to you on, because I haven't used the Azure DevOps private Git repository feature yet. This is something that they have released in the upcoming, I think, September or October release. This is something that we can get back to you on that, because this is a major question whether we should remove the dependency on Adobe Git or not.
But yeah, I think as far as I know, until you have the cloud service versions of your Git tools like GitHub or Azure, Azure DevOps, I am not much aware of, but yeah, Bitbucket or GitHub, you can directly use it to and you can completely ignore the Adobe repo, as far as I know, because I have been in some conversations with Adobe around it, and we are also planning to migrate to same kind of architecture. The only pain point for us is because it's self-hosted cloud of Bitbucket that we are using. So that's the reason it is not something that we can do.
So Devanshu, we have one more question from Rahul.
Organization owned GitHub, yes, I think you can do it.
Yes, I feel so, because earlier there was no option. You can just add a private repo.
It's an option. But at the same time, just to give you one more pointer out of my recent R&D and things that I'm seeing in multiple projects, that even if you are running on the same kind of a system where you are just pushing your code to the Git and then taking it over to the Adobe Git from the organizational Git, when it comes to the Git actions, it's very much powerful. It's just that you can just go ahead and set up your Git actions appropriately. Once you do it in the GitHub, it's equivalent to how you do it directly using your private repository, because you are not technically maintaining it separately by yourself. It's just that the Git uh, actions are taking care of pushing everything to those repos. So for example, if I am the user, I am the developer, I develop something, merges it in develop itself. And if I have, let's suppose, auto push over there by using the Git actions will get triggered by itself, and it will have a simple command to force push everything, whatever is there in that particular develop branch, to the development branch of Adobe Git. So typically you are not maintaining it separately as a whole, because you're not neither pushing, neither touching your Adobe Git. It's just that your Git actions are taking care of it. But it's a very smart way to do it until you have everything released so properly and you have tested everything. But till then, you can go for this way of deploying everything.
So this is the official documentation from Adobe for split stage only and production only pipelines. You can get more details over here.
All right. So, Pranay, I think we have 5-7 minutes available. So, do you want to give some insights on some tips or tricks, kind of a thing, which has worked for you? It could be something which is not in appropriate way how it is being documented, but it worked for you, and or you have found out another way of doing it that could be helpful for all the participants.
Yeah, some tips and tricks. Yes, I can tell you some things, right? Um, in my past experience, like you know that we have the Fastly CDN that is integrated, that comes with the uh, package in AEM as a cloud service, and you can deploy directly to the CDN. You just need to create a config folder inside your project, right? You can create a cdn.yaml file, and if you want to put any redirections or any kind of CDN rules, you can use a targeted pipeline, deployment pipeline you can create, and you can choose config there, and then you know that in the root path you can pass the path of /config where the cdn.yaml file is there. It is very much easier, and it takes like a few minutes to just deploy the code, right? And also I have explored some tip I would say is that you don't use, like I what I personally do is that I don't actually use the full stack pipeline. I divided into simpler modules, like all the code goes through the full stack pipeline, like web tier configuration is not there. Then CDN, I can have a different pipeline, and for dispatcher or whatever we say web tier, we can have a separate pipeline. So this makes pretty much easier to code and deploy on the Cloud Manager. And one more best thing I like about Cloud Manager is that we have a RD environment, right? That's the rapid development environment. Anything you want to just test very fast, right? You just create a build and push it directly to the RD from your command line interface. For that, you need a AIO, right? Adobe IO installed in your local environment, which helps uh, like go to, I would say this is a word that I have created. We know go to market is there, so go to environment is there where RD makes it very much easier.
Yeah,
So some of
definitely.
these, yeah.
When it comes to RDE, once you get used to RDE, rest is magic, because you are so much used to using the RDE now, and you know if something is working in RDE. After that, my always thought is that what can break if something is working in RDE, because it's replica. It's entirely the same environment what development environment is. After that, only thing that can break is your code quality rules and stuff. But I
Right.
think you don't care a lot about it, because you can just go over there and find the spreadsheet that comes as a part of that. It break because this is not fulfilled or that is not fulfilled, and get it resolved and go for it. But yeah, from the feature standpoint, if something is working in RD, 90% possibility is it's going to work on your dev and all the environment. So you can easily take a guess that go ahead, do your development in your local SDK. After that, go for the RDE deployment, test it in RDE, and then you can easily think that now it's just a matter of deploying one last pipeline and you will be done with your feature.
Right. One more thing that I use, and this should be like, it's like everyone should, I think, are using already, is that you have an option to download logs from the Cloud Manager, like environment specific. So it actually gives you logs every 15 minutes. Actually they are being recorded there, right? Let's say if any request is coming right now on my staging environment or anywhere, it won't, you can directly see the logs there, because it will take 15 minutes to update it there. Set of 15 minutes logs are there. So I recommend everybody to install AIO, Adobe IO, so that you can tail real-time logs in RD, dev, and stage. Production, it gets a little difficult, but still, you can see incoming request directly in your command line. So that's a very good thing I like about it, like tailing the logs.
And I think one more thing on top of it is it's really helpful if your organization is not doing it. Connect
Yeah.
your cloud managers with Splunk. It's really
Yeah.
helpful. I think it is add-on product that is provided by Adobe, and at the same time, you can ask Adobe to help you to do that.
Yeah.
Because if
That is
logs
totally
are
what
not
it
there,
is.
it's really quick to find it out. Pranay, can you just put on AIO documentation? I think
Yeah, sure, I'll do that.
AIO.
So I have my own. I have been running a AEM Digest channel on LinkedIn, and I have created this uh, like setup to how to set up log scaling in RD.
All right. So, any further questions before we wrap up? It was a great discussion, by the way. I will just give one more minute to see if any more questions coming along, because we are having 5-7 minutes to end up the session. And yeah, just my bit. New Relic. Yeah, it comes out of the box with your licenses, and I see many of the people not using it. So yeah, it's really helpful to monitor it with the free licensing that comes along. So you can do that. All right, that's it, Pranay. Are we good so far to wrap up?
Yes, Devanshu. I think it was a great session, and thank you guys for joining.
All right, so don't worry about it. Everything will be available on the same page. I'm just gonna put it for one last time in the chat in case you want to pick it up. On this page where the session is there, you will find the recording as well as the presentation, most probably. And don't forget to go ahead and fill the speaker forms. We really want more expertise, more different sessions coming along to be shared along the audience. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming. See you next time.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.